Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. During my course BCM 310, there was one topic that really got my attention, and the topic was based on robots. The topic was so interesting that it got me inspired to do a research study on can robotic pets give us the same comfort as normal pets, and will robotic pets replace normal pets in the coming future. Now we all are aware of how lovable pets are and how much joy they can bring to the ones who own them. But on the other hand, owning a pet is not that easy as it sounds. It's a huge challenge and a huge responsibility. I myself always wanted a pet, but I know that I'm not capable enough to own one. See, it's not just about taking them for a walk or feeding them. There's a lot more to it. But for those seeking a pet companion but not the responsibilities, a robotic pet may be an option for you all. But before I move on, what exactly is a robotic pet? Well, according to Wikipedia, a robotic pet is an artificially intelligent machine made in the image of an animal commonly kept as a pet. Now, there are a variety of robotic pets such as dogs, cats, and birds. And robotic pets may also include things that are not normally considered as pet, such as a robotic dinosaur. But the question is, can they give us the same comfort as normal pets? Maybe yes, maybe no. It really depends on the owner himself or herself. But here are some potential benefits of owning a robotic pet. As I mentioned about the responsibilities, owning a robotic pet have fewer responsibilities. Unlike a real pet, there's no need to continually refill the water and food bowls, There is no need to feed the robotic pet. There is also no dealing with any after dinner walks, and you don't even have to give them a bath, you don't even have to clean them up, and the cost of a live pet becomes more expensive over the time, as owner will continually have to purchase the food, toys, and the healthcare. But for a robotic pet, all they need are batteries, simple as that. And talking about health, a huge benefit of robotic pet is you don't have to worry of your pet getting sick, and it also means that your robotic pet will be immortal, therefore no emotional breakdowns. I've mentioned before that I always wanted a pet, but I couldn't since my mom was allergic to dogs, and having a robotic pet means there won't be any excuses from your family for not having one. Now enough of me talking about the positive sides of robotic pets. All these positive things that I mentioned about robotic pets must be sounding so great, and might be a treat for all the lazy people who want to own a pet. But don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to persuade you or any of my audience to purchase one of these robotic pets, In fact, the question here is still pending, which is, can these robotic pets give us the same comfort as normal pets? Now, looking at the benefit, it sure says a lot already, all the benefits. But if you ask me personally, I would say no. And why is it? Because, see, being a pet owner, I think taking up all those responsibilities is the best part of owning a pet. You get to feed them, you get to bring them to a walk, cleaning them up, and doing these things. I think I can build, I can develop feelings toward my pet. I'll get close to my pet, and I will start to love it more. It's just it will become like a child of mine. It's just like a mother and a child thing. But that's just my take on it. What do you think? Can humans build emotional bonds with robots? Is it something that will only happen in movies or shows? I don't know if you remember, there was this Japanese show where a girl falls in love with a robot. Can something like that actually happen in over the years, it's been proven that having a pet is good for your mental health. There was this research taken on pets and mental health around 30 years ago by a psychologist called Alan Beck and Aaron Ketcher. They measured what happens to a human body when a person pets a friendly dog. And what they found was that, your heart rate slows, your breathing becomes more regular, the muscle tension gets relaxed, the blood pressure goes down. And if you have noticed, all these signs are of reduced stress, if you have noticed. And not just it helps you with lowering down your stress, it also helps you to fight anxiety, especially for children. Children who grow up with pets may have a better chance of becoming happy in their early teens. And not only that, pets also increases our sense of self-esteem and well-being. So what I mean here is that you will become less lonely, less fearful, more extroverted, more physically fit. And pets also help us to build healthy habits. For example, physical activity. Like dog owners need to take their pets for a walk, right? And there's a study shown that every day humans should walk for at least 10 minutes. And I think owning a pet would be a great I would say excuse for a person who's lazy and does not want to walk, and who always sit on his couch, to go down and walk with his pet. So that's one of the advantages of having a pet. And the last thing which comes in my mind is is that pets they give us like unconditional loves, and that the type of unconditional love they give to their owner is actually very good for mental health. So it kind of stimulates the brain. It releases dopamine, the chemical which makes us feel good. So what about robotic pets? What roles do they exactly play in terms of improving mental health? Before I take up on this research study, I was actually wondering, can these robotic pets cure loneliness, depression, and stress? I was really curious about that. But when I was, doing my secondary data, thanks to my secondary data, there was this article that I found online, where it talks about, robotic pets in dementia care, and it has found out that like according to that article, that actually these robotic pets are actually very good for dementia patients. Now for those audience who are wondering what does dementia actually means, it's a mental illness where a person starts to forget his memory. It's not strong. He easily forget things, he or she. And according to that article, it says that robotic pets are actually very good for dementia patients. They can help them to reduce anxiety, loneliness, and depression. It doesn't matter if it's whether a cat or a fish or a dog. Any pet, any robotic pet will help them. And actually these robotic pets also do bring companionship, and just like a live pet, a normal pet, they provide unconditional love to these dementia patients. And why, you're probably wondering why robotic pets for dementia patients, why not just normal live pets? See, the thing is that this is a new trend for treating dementia patients, is using robotic pets. Now like for a normal pet, you're required to feed them, and as I just said, dementia patients are patients who forget things easily. So you can already understand where I'm going with this. Like if they can forget, they usually even forget their family's name, their own names. What are the possibility of them not forgetting to feed a normal pet? So that's why having a robotic pets is good for them. After listing out all the possible benefits of owning a robotic pet and talking about how these robotic pets plays a vital role in helping patients who suffer from mental illness, such as dementia, I was still not convinced on whether robotic pets can give us the same comfort as normal pets. Maybe what I was looking for was, people's voice, people's opinions on robotic pets. So therefore, I decided to do a primary research. I interviewed few of my friends. They all study at City University. I asked their take on robotic pets, and here are their opinions.
Personally, I think robotic pets are cool since robots are really an advanced technology. That's why it's interesting and cool.
I think they're not the replacement of real pets.
I think you can't compare a living animal which contains emotions to a robotic pet which is like an iPad or like an iPhone.
I think it's cool, like you can own a pet made of machine.
Yes, I have a pet rabbit, and he is currently 2 years old, male. Yeah.
Yes.
I used to.
Yes, I do own a pet, and it's a dog.
No, never. Robots won't give you. Robotic pets won't give you that same feeling as a live pet will give you. Plus, a live pet has actually, has actual feelings and will communicate what they like or don't like. For example, if I pet my rabbit in a certain way it doesn't like, it'll lunge at me, bite me with its...
I would not.
Certainly not.
No.
Yes.
No, I don't.
Maybe in the future I'll think about it.
I think I would pet one. A characteristic I would definitely look for is the reaction towards my petting, just to see how accurate the engineers that created the pet robot will be, compared to a real life pet.
I would look at it more than an emotional investment. I would look at it as a financial investment, maybe something to help around the house.
I would like to have the future like where we can communicate.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mhm.
If I do have one, I think I'd be pretty comfortable with robotic pets. You can turn it on and off whenever you want, unlike live pets where every day it needs your attention.
No.
Depends what they do.
Such as?
Such as housekeeping, entertaining my kids, or cleaning around the house.
I think I'm pretty comfortable with it.
I don't think owning a robotic pet will enhance my life, because let's say comparing it to a live pet, having a live pet means you have responsibilities. You're caring for another life, and their life depends on you 60-70% of the time. And with robots, it's just not the same feeling of responsibility.
For emotional enhancement, I don't think it will, because it is not a living object. But if it comes with features that can maybe help around the house or maybe add more convenience to my livelihood, then maybe yeah.
Definitely bringing convenience to my daily life would be plus, but depends.
I think it will be quite useful. Like it can help do things like send a message. Machine.
Hopefully not. Pets are irreplaceable, and with robots, if one breaks, you can easily just buy another one. With real-life pets, if they pass away, it's going to be hard to cope with, because it's also like losing a loved one. I don't think it's the same as robotic pets.
No.
Thank you.
I think it will never replace any real pets in any future right now. So, yeah, that's not even a question.
Maybe I think it can. It can.
From my understanding, all the participants had mixed feelings towards robotic pets, but there was one thing that was common among all of them was that they all believed that robotic pets can never replace real pets. And I agree with them. I would actually put it in this way. I would say robotic pets cannot replace all pets, but definitely in some instance, maybe yes, such. But I'll come back to that later. As I was saying, sure, these robotic pets can make your life much easier, but then see, a pet is not a slave. It's not there for making your life easier, right? And a pet is a living thing, while a robot is not. Even though the artificial intelligence can create these emotions in a robot, but it still cannot be like a real pet. It can never be like a real pet. And when I asked all these participants about whether will they ever think of replacing their pets with robotic pets, and I wasn't surprised with their answer when they all said no. You can never replace it with robotic pets. Pets are a lot like family members in that regard. Now, coming back to the main questions, will robotic pets replace real pets in the coming future? As I said, robotic pets will not replace all the pets, but it sure will replace in some instance. So for example, in the nursing homes, as you just saw previously in my video, that having a robotic pet can help patients who suffer from dementia. So it's really well known that the presence of a pet such as a dog or a cat could lead to a positive factor in the quality of life of these inhabitants. Another possible use is a device to help old aged individuals who require constant monitoring, but do not necessarily need a human companion at all the times. In this perspective, then yes, but then I will also say no, because humans have evolved in environments with dogs, cats, and other pets for thousands or hundreds of. That's all from my point of view of what I think on can robotic pods give us the same comfort as normal pets, and will they replace normal pets in the coming future? Thank you all of you for your time.